Hello students. In the last lecture, we have covered up to Article 1.2. Now today we will be discussing Article 1.3 in which the physics, technology and society relation has been established. See, so many examples can be seen. Suppose in thermodynamics, what do we study in the thermodynamics? We study the working of the heat engines. Okay. Steam engine was developed during the Industrial Revolution and its efficiency was under consideration. How to improve the efficiency of the heat engine? For that, thermodynamics has been developed. So we study the working of heat engines and its reverse process refrigerator we also study in the thermodynamics. Okay. So sometimes what happens, the technology gives rise to the new types of physics and other times physics generates the new technology. Both the processes are going on together. Now, as an example, where the physics generates new technology, we can take an example of the wireless communication technology. In wireless communication technology, that was followed by the discovery of the basic laws of electricity and magnetism in the 19th century. So example of the physics giving rise to technology is the silicon chip that triggered the computer revolution in the last 3 decades of the 20th century. So whatever advancement in the physics are there, whatever discoveries are there, and that has given rise to the new technologies, suppose a silicon chip and the wireless communication, which is used for the humans. Okay. Now, a very significant area in which the physics is to apply, physicist has to apply their mind, is the development of the alternative energy resources. The fossil fuels of the planet are dwindling very fast. They are becoming less and less, but still we are very much dependent on that. But we are also exploring the new sources of energy. Solar energy and geothermal energy are being used to convert into electricity, but still more is to be accomplished in this region. Physics is what? Physics is the study of the nature and natural phenomena. Okay. So we will discuss now that the nature of the fundamental forces. What are the fundamental forces, their nature, and the laws that govern the diverse phenomena of the physical world? So what are the fundamental forces in nature? Our intuitive notion that we need a force to push, carry, or throw objects, or deform, or break them. This is our intuitive notion. But whatever our intuition says, the definition of the forces go beyond that. It is not only to push, carry, or throw object, or deform, or break them. It is much more than that. Okay. The early thinkers were having this much of idea of the force. Okay. Later on, this formula, this idea of the force is changed. The correct notion of the force arrived at by the Isaac Newton in his famous laws of the motions. You have studied the Newton's laws of motion, first law, second law, and third law. So correct notion of force is given by the second law of motion. Rate of change of momentum of a body gives us the applied external force on that body. Now in the macroscopic world, besides the gravitational force, there are many forces seen. What are the forces we see in our macroscopic world apart from the gravitational force? We see the muscular force, contact forces between the bodies, we see the friction, we see the tension, force in the spring and strings, okay? Force of buoyancy, viscous force. These are some of the forces which we see in our daily life. Okay. force due to the pressure of a fluid, force due to surface tension of a liquid, and the forces involving charge in magnetic bodies. These are also the forces which we see around us. And in the microscopic domain, the nuclear forces come into picture. Forces involving the protons and neutrons, interatomic forces, intermolecular forces, all these are the microscopic forces. So different forces are used in different contexts. So basically a small number of fundamental forces are there in nature. We have just discovered a lot of forces of different kind, but they are made up of only certain fundamental forces in nature. Okay. So what are these fundamental forces in nature? So we see the four fundamental forces in nature are there. And these four fundamental forces in nature, the first is the gravitational force. What is the force of gravitation? For gravitational force, so gravitational force is the force of mutual attraction between any two bodies by the virtue of their masses. And this is a universal force. This applies in whole of the universe. This applies between two bodies of masses m1 and m2, and this applies between the sun and earth. This applies also to the moon and earth. Means whether the lighter bodies or heavier bodies, this force is applied. So that means every object experience this force due to every other object in the universe. Okay. So motion of the moon, motion of the artificial satellites, motion of the earth and the planets around the sun, and the motion of the falling body on the earth, all arise because of this gravitational force. The underlying force is the gravitational force and is given by the Newton's universal law of gravitation. What is that? Suppose body of mass m1 and m2 are kept at a certain distance r, then the force of attraction between them is given by the formula G m1 m2 upon r square. The force is inversely proportional to r square, the distance between the two bodies. These two bodies either may be sun and earth, either may be earth or moon, or either may be table and chair. Okay. Every body attracts each other with this force. G is the universal gravitational constant. This its value is 6.67 10 power minus 11 fixed in whole of the universe. This is not changing. This is universal value. This force of attraction between the two bodies is given by this formula. Okay. Formation and evolution of stars, galaxies, and galactic clusters all takes place under the effect of this force. Okay. So this force is all pervading force. Next is electromagnetic force. Electromagnetic force, what is that? Electromagnetic force is the force between the charged particles. Electromagnetic force is the force between the charged particles. So two charges Q1 and Q2 are there, then the force between them will be given by the Coulomb's law. Okay. So in simpler case, when charges are at rest, means Q1 and Q2 charges or any charges are not moving, the force is given by the Coulomb's law. What is the Coulomb's law? Let us see here. If there are two charges Q1 and Q2 kept at a certain distance r, then the force of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q1 Q2 upon r square. This is also inverse square law. Force is proportional to the square of the distance between them. Force is proportional to the product of the charges, and in the gravitational case, the force was proportional to the product of the masses. Okay. So this is Coulomb's law, where 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 is a constant. Is a constant. Though this force will be attractive or repulsive both, while the gravitational force can be only attractive. Okay. So whenever the charges are static, In the static electricity, we study Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law is applied. This is Coulomb's law. F is equal to K Q1 Q2 upon R square. The charges in motion produce magnetic effects. Later on, we will study that whenever the charges are in motion, they constitute electric current, and whenever the electric current is there, there will be magnetic field. That means charges in motion produce the magnetic fields and magnetic effects. And magnetic effect, and if a charge is moving under a magnetic field, it will experience a Lorentz force. Later on, we will study the whenever a magnetic field is present and the charge is moving through the magnetic field, that its path is a force will be applied on that known as Lorentz force. So the charge in motion produce magnetic fields, and magnetic field gives rise to force on that moving charge, and therefore we say that the electric and magnetic effects in general inseparable. This is the coin is same. These are heads and tails, we can say. Okay. Therefore, because these two are inseparable, the name is given electromagnetic force. So like the gravitational force, electromagnetic force acts over a large distance and does not need an intervening medium. Means up to a very large distance, this force acts like the gravitational force. So we say that this is a long range force. Long range force. In some books, it is written that it is known as a long range force. Okay. Now this force also does not need any intervening medium like the gravitational force. Okay. Now electric force between two protons as calculated, if you calculate applying Coulomb's law, the electric force between the two protons, and you apply the gravitational formula of Newton, universal law of gravitation formula of Newton, and calculate the force between the two protons, gravitational force, then if you compare the gravitational force and electric force, the electric force is 10 to the power 36 times the gravitational force between them for any fixed distance. Okay. So electromagnetic force is very much stronger than the gravitational force. It dominates all phenomena at the atomic and molecular scales. It is very, very strong force than the gravitational force. And it is basically the electromagnetic force that governs the structure of atoms and molecules. So all the bodies are made up of atoms and molecules, you know. Okay. And we are saying that the electromagnetic force governs the structures of atoms and molecules. Okay. So mainly the electromagnetic force comes into play. So almost all the forces, we will see almost all the forces are arising because of the electromagnetic force. Okay. Now gravity is attractive while the electromagnetic force can be attractive or repulsive. We already studied that point. Now all the matter is most electrically neutral. Net charge is zero. Now the matter is mostly electrically neutral. So net charge is zero. Suppose a book is there. So particles of the book, atoms and molecules of the book are they are bounded together and they are electrically neutral, and so net charge on the book is zero. Therefore, the electric force is not prevailing, but the weight of the book is prevailing. That means gravitational force is predominant at that time. Okay. Electric force manifests itself in the atmosphere when the atoms are ionized, and that leads to lightning. You have seen the lightning discharge from the sky, and electric force manifests itself in the atmosphere where the atoms are ionized. When they are ionized, then lightning will be there and you will see the effect of the electromagnetic force. Otherwise, you will not see the effect of the electromagnetic force. Now, when we hold a book in our hand, we are balancing the gravitational force on the book due to the huge mass of the earth by the normal force. If we are supporting a book in our hand, so this is our hand and this is a book. So by our hand, we are applying a reaction force, normal force on the book to balance the weight of the force. Weight of the book. This book is having weight W, and we are balancing by the normal force. Now this normal force is nothing but the net electromagnetic force between the charged constituents of our hands and the book at the surface of the contact. That means the force between the hand and the book arises because of the electromagnetic force. Okay. Now, what is a strong nuclear force? Let's study about this. Strong nuclear force binds protons and neutrons in a nucleus. Protons are positively charged, neutrons are neutral. So, to keep the positively charged together, positive charges together, some attractive force is needed. A strong, very strong attractive force is needed. Otherwise, nucleus will be unstable because all the positive protons are there inside that in a very small region. So, to bind the protons in a very small space in the nucleus, a strong, very strong nuclear force is needed that is attractive in nature. That is called the strong nuclear force. And it is the strongest of all fundamental forces. This is the strongest of all the fundamental forces, that is about 100 times the electromagnetic force in strength. Now, relative strength is given. Now this force is charge independent and its range is very small, and range of the nuclear force is 10 to the power minus 15 meter, and 10 to the power minus 15 meter range means this is having a short range, so it is called short range force. Short range force. Short range force 10 to the power minus 15 meter or less. Okay. Now, this strong nuclear force is responsible for the stability of the nucleus. Now, electrons do not experience this force. Okay. Any chemical reaction, what happens in any chemical reaction? Outermost orbital electrons are rearranged. Okay. The nucleus is not involved in the normal chemical reactions. Nucleus is involved in the nuclear reactions. Now, recent developments have indicated that protons and neutrons are built up out of still more elementary constituent particles called quarks. What are the quarks? The physical independent existence of the quark is not known so far, but the quark is up quark and down quarks are there, and up and electrons and protons are made up of up quarks and down quarks. So up quark is what? Up quark. Up quark is having plus 2 by 3 E charge, and down quark is having minus 1 by 3 E charge. So in terms of that, if we say UUD, that means up quark plus 2 by 3 E charge plus 2 by 3 E charge, and UUD means down. Up quarks means U and down quarks means D. So this is minus 1 by 3 E. So 4 minus 1, 3 by 3, so it becomes E. So this is what? E charge on the proton. So proton structure is represented by UUD. Suppose we say UDD. So U is plus 2 by 3 E charge minus 1 by 3 E and minus 1 by 3 E charge. So it becomes 0. So this represents neutron, because neutron is neutral. There is no charge on the neutron. Okay. So proton is represented by UUD and neutron is represented by UDD. So proton and neutron are made up of still smaller particles called quarks. Quarks energy exchanges takes place between the quarks. What is the weak nuclear force? Now, weak nuclear force appears only in the certain nuclear process such as beta decay. The nucleus emits an electron and uncharged particle called the neutrino. Now, this weak nuclear force is much weaker than the strong nuclear and electromagnetic forces, but it is having certainly greater value than the gravitational force. Now, let us discuss what is the unification of the forces. What the unification of forces? Let us understand this point by seeing certain examples. Oersted and Faraday. They showed by their experiment that electric and magnetic phenomena are in general inseparable. So they have done unification. Okay. Similarly, Maxwell unified electromagnetism and optics. So he has also done something about the unification theory. Einstein attempted to unify gravity and electromagnetism but could not succeed. This is also this subject, unification of gravity and electromagnetism is the subject of today's research. Okay, so this is also an example of the unification. Nowadays electromagnetic force and the weak nuclear force are combinedly called electroweak force. Okay, so this is also an effort in the unification of the forces. So it may also happen, many scientists are still struggling to make the unification possible, and we can understand with the help of example that different people, different religions call their gods. Somebody calls Allah, somebody calls Ram, somebody calls by some other name Christ, but it may be only one energy source. It may be one super energy source, and these people are calling them by different names. Okay, that is unification. Understood unification? Now, what is the nature of the physical laws? We should have a certain idea of the nature of the physical laws. So we see that the remarkable fact we see that some special physical quantities remain constant in time. They are conserved quantities of the nature. Law of conservation comes from that. Now, to understand these conservation principles is very important to describe the observed phenomena quantitatively. Suppose let us see the law of conservation of mechanical energy. For motion under an external conservative force. What is a conservative force? Conservative force and fields are such type of forces and field. For example, gravitational force is a conservative force. Electric field, magnetic field, these are the conservative force fields. In which, what is the definition given to the conservative force? Work done in moving from one place to another depends only on the initial and final condition and does not depend on the path taken. That is the definition of the conservative forces. If any force falls into that category, then for the motion under the external conservative force, the total mechanical energy of the body is constant. The total mechanical energy of the body is constant. With mechanical energy means sum of kinetic and potential energy of the body, that is constant. This is law of conservation of mechanical energy. Okay, that we can see in any of the example. Now, suppose if we are talking about a ball falling from some height to the ground, then at the top, when the ball is having zero velocity, velocity is zero, so kinetic energy zero, only potential energy is mgh. This is ground. At a height h below that is ground, so only potential energy mgh is there. In between this point and this point, there will be sum of kinetic and potential energy. It will having a certain velocity here, and that will be having kinetic energy, and that time that it loses the potential energy up to somewhat amount. So sum of the potential and kinetic energy at all the points will remain same. That is law of conservation of mechanical energy applied to these free falling bodies. Okay. Now, when all the forms of energy, heat energy, mechanical energy, electrical energy, etc., these are counted, it turns out that the energy is conserved. So we see that the energy is conserved. Suppose this ball is of iron and it falls on the ground, then it will not rebound. Why it will not rebound? Its energy is lost. Okay, its energy is lost in the form of heat. Its energy is lost in the form of heat energy, and therefore the total energy, if we include that heat energy, will be constant. Okay. So general law of conservation of energy is true for all forces and for any kind of transformation between different forms of the energy. Law of conservation of energy is valid across all domains of nature, from the microscopic to the macroscopic domain. Now, total energy of the universe means if you are taking all the energies, heat energy, mechanical energy, electrical energy, all energies, you are counting that the total energy of the universe will be constant, because universe is considered to be, keep it busy. So total energy will be conserved. Okay. So total energy of the universe is constant. Okay. Now law of conservation of mass, it was considered to be true. Law of conservation of mass. What is in a chemical reaction? In a chemical reaction, you see, this is basically arrangement of atoms among the different molecules. Okay. Suppose a chemical reaction is taking place, A and B are the reactants. It gives rise to products C and D. Okay. So the rearrangement of atoms is taking place, and the outermost electrons are taking part in the experiment. If the total binding energy of the reacting molecules is less than the total binding energy of the product molecules, that difference will appear as heat, and the reaction is called the exothermic reaction. So that chemical reaction is called exothermic reaction. Okay. And opposite is true for the energy absorbing reaction. When the total binding energy of the reacting molecule is more than the total binding energy of the product molecule, then the difference will appear. Difference will be absorbed as heat, and the reaction will be endothermic. So two types of reaction takes place. In both the reactions, the mass will be conserved. Mass of the reactants is equal to mass of the product. So law of conservation of mass valid is holding here. Okay. But when the nuclear reactions takes place, then the mass is converted into energy. Then law of conservation of mass is not holding. According to Einstein, mass and energy equivalence is that E is equal to mc square. Energy is E, m is the mass destroyed, and c is the velocity applied. Means c is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. C is equal to 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and its square is there, 9 into 10 to the power 16. So m mass is converted by this formula to the energy. And if we see in the nuclear process, 92U235 uranium nuclear process of the uranium 235, in the nuclear fission of the uranium, we get a lot of energy, and that energy is utilized in the nuclear power generation, that is for human use, and nuclear explosions. Okay. The atom bomb dropped at the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was atom bomb based on this principle. Okay. E is equal to mc square. Mass is converted into energy. Now, for an isolated system, the total linear momentum also is constant. This is called the law of conservation of linear momentum. And for an isolated system, the total angular momentum of the system are conserved. These are constant if no external force, no external torques are applied. Means on the system, if no external force is applied, then the total linear momentum of that system is constant. Similarly, if the no external torques are applied, total angular momentum of that system is constant. So law of conservation of linear momentum, law of conservation of angular momentum. Okay. These are the basic laws of conservation. And we have earlier studied law of conservation of energy. Here we are studying law of conservation of momentum. Okay. Now law of conservation energy was put to use in a very important process and was in a very important discovery. Actually, by using the conservation laws of energy and momentum in the beta decay, Sir Wolfgang Pauli, you will be studying Pauli's exclusion principle in the chemistry. So Sir Wolfgang Pauli correctly predicted the existence of new particle, and the new particle was called neutrino. Okay, along with the electron, neutrino is also seen. That was told by the Sir Wolfgang Pauli. Now let us talk about the symmetries of nature. What are the symmetries of nature? Nature is symmetric to many things. What is homogeneity of the space? Now, first of all, let us see laws of nature do not change with time. Okay. So symmetry of the nature with respect to translation, with respect to the displacement. If the nature is symmetric with respect to displacement in time, that means with time that is not changing, that is equivalent to the law of conservation of energy. That gives rise to law of conservation of energy. Otherwise, if nature would not have been symmetric to the translation, symmetric to the displacement, law of conservation of energy would not have been possible. Okay. Space is homogeneous and there is no intrinsically preferred location in the universe. Space is homogeneous. So, space is homogeneous. So, homogeneity of space gives rise to law of conservation of linear momentum. Okay. Similarly, space is isotropic also. Space is isotropic also. Isotropy of space means there is no preferred direction in the space. In all the direction, value of the quantity remains same. Then we say any quantity, electric current, velocity or anything, in all the direction, if it is constant, then we say that the space is isotropic. And if we consider this isotropicity of the space, then conservation of angular momentum arise from that isotropy of the space. Okay, so these symmetries of the nature play an important part. Now the conservation law of charge, law of conservation of the charge and other attributes of the elementary particles can also be related to certain abstract symmetries. That means certain symmetries are also there with which it can be explained that law of conservation of charge is there. But still it is the subject of the research. What is the cause? What is the symmetry due to the law? Because of that, law of conservation of charge is possible. So my friends, this ends this lecture, NCERT textbook lecture, and I have explained each and every topic to you. Now we are finishing this lecture here. Okay. Thank you.